Hey legends, what's up? It's Darkmech here from Big Dumb Gaming and welcome back to another video. Today, we're getting stuck into the Blood DK. A few things have changed. Now important before we get stuck into this video, all the information presented today has been obtained from and in collaboration with Mandel and Panthea. So for the most up-to-date information, always continue to check back on the Wowhead and Icy Veins guides. Be sure to visit the Acarus Discord. But the info I'm giving you today is based around theory crafting and not fairly good vibes that you might see hunting around on the internet. Now we're going to start off today with the most important part of being successful on the Blood DK in patch 9.2, and that's rotation. I want to emphasize this hugely. Rotation is the biggest factor on your Blood DK this patch. Not your Covenant, not your stats, not your Trinkets. It's your rotational play that has an enormous factor on whether or not you are successful on the Blood DK in 9.2. This is the area you gain all your dancing rune weapon uptime, your strength buff stacks, and where you lose out on all of that if you play the rotation poorly. The important thing to remember about dancing rune weapon is whilst it's active, it's 40% bonus parry, and the gain stacks of the strength from the set bonus as well, which cap out at 40% extra strength. And this could get adjusted. It was originally started off as 75, it's now 40, but regardless of what it gets adjusted to, it's a lot of bonus parry and armor. So prior to obtaining your 2-piece and 4-piece, nothing changes. You just play the rotation the same as you've always done. After when you land your 2-piece bonus, however, from the first Eidolon Soulsteel, Endless Rune Waltz rewards you for doing what you should be doing during Dancing Rune Weapon by giving you even more duration of Dancing Rune Weapon. So what you want to be doing during this window is hitting as many heart strikes as possible. The reward from this is a much longer Dancing Rune Weapon and a stacking strength buff. With the 2-piece bonus, you get 0.5 seconds of Dancing Rune Weapon per heart strike and 1% strength, which will equal 1 second per heart strike thanks to your Dancing Rune Weapon with 2-piece when it's active. This works out to be 2% strength as well, as you'll get 1% strength from your weapon and 1% from your Dancing Rune Weapons hit, so that's 2 stacks per heart strike. The 4-piece bonus of the first Eidolon Soulsteel eases your time during Dancing Rune Weapon further by granting double bonuses of the Dancing Rune Weapon except for the parry. So you'll get 10 runic power bonus per heart strike, 9 bone shield charges per Marrow Rend, and this means having to Marrow Rend even less than before, and the first means more runic power. You also gain a chance to proc a free heart strike from the other part of the 4-piece bonus, which is on a 3-second internal cooldown, which translates to even more damage and more runic power and more stacks of Endless Rune Waltz. With 4-piece, you get your original weapon plus your 2 copies of Dancing Rune Weapon, so we're gaining 1.5 seconds of Dancing Rune Weapon and 3% strength per stack per heart strike. Once you've got the 4-piece bonus, your absolute goal in Dancing Rune Weapon is to be using your runes on heart strike whilst having at least 1 stack of bone shield up and spending your runic power on death strikes. Blood Boil drops sharply on your priority list in single target, as you just won't have the GCDs to spend, as you'll be pressing heart strike and trying not to sit at runic cap for long periods of time. Do keep in mind, death strike is still a huge damaging ability, so don't just sit at cap for ages. It does drop in priority, however, on 5+ AoE target situations, but of course you'll be keeping yourself alive, and the means of doing that is by using death strike. From all this, there also is a slight change. Whilst Dancing Rune Weapon is active, Ossuary becomes less of an important factor to play around. You still want to have at least 1 charge of Bone Shield for the haste gain, but as you're swimming in runic power, playing in that Ossuary pattern between 5 and 7 stacks of Bone Shield isn't as important anymore. Lastly, the dynamic interaction with Crimson Rune Weapon provides us with a talent choice change, Tombstone and Blood Tap. These both contribute towards Dancing Rune Weapon's uptime by either reducing its cooldown or providing more heart strikes to spend. So how do you go about playing with these talents in your rotation? So for Blood Tap, there are 2 easy rules to function around. Number 1, Blood Tap if you have 2 charges or are less than 5 seconds away from having a second charge and you have less than 3 runes. And number 2, Blood Tap if you have 1 charge, less than 3 runes, and have less than 63 runic power. Now the runic power number isn't really important with 4 set. It makes you swim in runic power. you're better off to waste some runic power from a Heart Strike than it is to waste a fraction of a blood tap charge. For Tombstone, there are a few differences to play around pending your Covenant decision, but as a general rule, you want to be using Tombstone after you've pressed Dancing Rune Weapon whilst it's on cooldown. The idea behind Tombstone is it's the easiest way to get up to 25 seconds of cooldown reduction on your Dancing Rune Weapon. If you have 5 stacks of Bone Shield and press Tombstone whilst Dancing Rune Weapon is active, you will have 25 seconds of your cooldown removed thanks to Tombstone. Tombstone will absorb up to 5 Bone Shield charges and provide you with 6 runic power per charge and a small absorption. However, as a general rule of thumb, you don't want to make Tombstone make you go to 0 stacks of Bone Shield. Now, rotationally speaking in regards to Covenants, I just want to cover the openers for each Covenant. Because outside of openers, the rotation, as we've just been speaking about, sort of stays the staple for every single Covenant. However, their openers differ. So let's look at the Necrolord Opener. So Necrolord, you're going to cast A-Bomb Limb going into the pool. This will give you 3 charges of Bone Shield and a bunch of AoE damage, which is great for threat. You're going to cast Dancing Rune Weapon. This will give you another 5 Bone Shield charges. This will put you at 8. Then you're going to cast Tombstone. You're going to get 25 seconds CDR on your Dancing Rune Weapon. As early as possible, you're going to get 30 runic power and you're going to go down to 3 stacks of Bone Shield. You're then going to cast Heart Strike to kickstart your set bonus, Blood Boil, 2 more Heart Strikes, and then a Bone Storm to dump all that runic power. Your Kyrian Opener, Dancing Rune Weapon, Heart Strike, Blood Boil, Marrow Rend, Tombstone to get that CDR going, Heart Strike to kickstart the bonus even further, then you're going to hit Shackle, and then you're going to dump your runic power into Bone Storm. Nightfae, you're going to cast Death's Due. It's important to get Death's Due down at the start of your pool because the whole point about Nightfae is building the strength stacks and getting that rolling. Your window becomes easier to maintain thanks to the Unity Legendary for this one, as the buff duration is out to 15 seconds. So you're going to cast Death's Due, cast Dancing Rune Weapon, Heart Strike, Blood Boil, Marrow Rend, Tombstone, Heart Strike, and then dump into Bone Storm once again. Venthia. Venthia is a little bit tricky. Venthia actually varies on what you press between targets 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and 4 to 5 targets. So we don't actually have a crafted out theory-based opener for Venthia. The big thing with Venthia though, for those that are choosing to play it, is you want to try and front load as much as you can before hitting Swarming Mists due to the way that the Legendary works. The Legendary for Venthia pops at the end of the 8-second Swarming Mist duration and deals damage based on how much runic power you spent during that 8-second window. So it would be something like getting your Dancing Rune Weapon off, Blood Boil, Heart Strike, Marrow Rend, Tombstone, and then at about 80 runic power you'd hit Swarming Mists. At 100, you would dump Bone Storm straight away to get rid of 100 runic power, and then you would be alternating between Heart Strikes and Death Strikes in that 8-second window to try and get the most out of the Legendary. Talents wise, the common and general purpose build with the tier bonus is what we're going to be looking at because, you know, if you don't have 2-piece, 4-piece, your talents stay exactly the same as they have been, so we're not going to bother touching on them. 2-piece, 4-piece talents, Tombstone, Hemostasis, Blood Tap, Will of the Necropolis, Grip of the Dead, Bloodworms, and Bone Storm. So these are the generic picks for 2 and 4-piece. Now just a few quick points around these talents. Hemostasis is always generally going to be the default pick. It's so stupidly powerful. If you do have 4-piece though, and you've elected to go with Nightfae for your Covenant of choice, Rapid Decomposition is a viable choice here, as the whole cycle of Nightfae play revolves around uptiming your Death's Due. Grip of the Dead, Tightening Grasp, and Wraithwalk, you've got choices here, same as you always have. In Mythic Plus, you probably will see Wraithwalk coming out a little bit more in speed-based settings and where there's less of a need to kite. Do keep in mind though that Grip of the Dead is a phenomenally powerful slow. It's the most powerful on-demand slow in game. It has a lot of applications for yourself and your group, so keep that in mind. Tightening Grasp is also a great option for fights where you need the reduced cooldown on Gore Fiends. Wraithwalk is still going to be your raid choice. Nothing really changes about that. Bloodworms versus Voracious. So Bloodworms is the default pick. Auto attacks deal significantly more damage now, and it's a meaningful choice for increased DPS, and you still get a solid amount of healing out of the talent. Voracious, however, will come into its own when you hit content that's hard enough, and this will be a small percent of the DK population realistically. But if you are executing your rotation correctly and you find that your worms are instantly popping, meaning you're spending a lot of time below 50% health, then Voracious is the pick. You'll probably need the healing at this level. It bumps your Death Strike minimum healing up to 10.5% instead of the standard 7% as well. Bone Storm versus Red Thirst and Purgatory. Bone Storm, even though the healing is capped, is still a really solid AoE healing and damage ability, but the big value that it brings to 2-piece and 4-piece is it's the easiest way to dump mass amounts of runic power, which enables you more GCDs into Heartstrike for Dancing Rune Weapon uptime. Red Thirst is a great option when you need it for what you need it for, and Purgatory is exactly the same. Purgatory is a really solid, consistent cheat death talent. If you need it for progression or if you're unsure of what will kill you, run Purgatory. Covenant choices. Alright, so every single covenant is fine for all forms of generalized content. Just want to get that out there straight away. If you're doing Mythic Plus and things like that, you're doing KSM and 20s, again, play whatever you like. It's all viable. With all that in mind though, I know you want to know about min-maxy stuff. So, start with raiding. For single and double legendary, it doesn't really change any of the options. Kyrian, Mechanicos is your pick. Necrolord, Marileth is your pick, and for Nightfae, Naya or Dreamweaver. Now, Dreamweaver is technically better, but it comes with the issue of pod tender, which means if you get stuck in a pod, you lose threat and everybody dies. So Naya is the safer option there if you want to play Nightfae. There is something worth mentioning though around raiding, and we're going to use Kyrian as the example because it's generally the best single target option here. We're talking about Eternal Hunger. Now, if you play Unholy, you would be aware of the Conduit Eternal Hunger. Dark Transformation's duration is increased and the minion's damage is increased. But what does this have to do with Blood DK? So the brains at the SS Theory Crafter discovered that Dancing Rune Weapon is in fact coded as a minion, meaning that Eternal Hunger actually buffs the damage of your Dancing Rune Weapon. It's only worth it on low target counts and for triple potency conduits, which Kyrian just happens to have with Mechanicos. Now, Necrolord has it with Marileth as well, and Nightfae has it with Naya, but Kyrian would generally be your highest single target option, so you'll be going with Mechanicos with this build. For Mythic Plus, all 4 covenants once again are viable. Let's just dump it in there, and the dungeon bonus of a covenant will generally trump your personal preference. The 3 top picks for Mythic Plus actually carry over from Raid in Kyrian, Necrolord, and Nightfae. Kyrian's Mechanicos, Necrolord is Marileth or Emily if you've got a organized Mythic Plus group, and Nightfae is Naya and Dreamweaver, though the same issues apply around pod tender. In Sims with perfect play, which realistically not many people do, Nightfae actually performs the best, but it's by far the hardest covenant to play optimally in keys, and it requires assistance from your group in trying to execute that, so I would recommend Necrolord and Kyrian as the best options for Mythic Plus. Necrolord brings a ton of utility. A-Bomb Limb is fantastic on snap threat and positioning. You gain another DR via Fleshcraft, and if you bind it with Emily, A-Bomb Limb boosts your party's primary, and Fleshcraft splashes healing, so it's a big bonus. Marileth doesn't provide as much group benefit, but it's an amazing default choice. If you want to go through with that, just ensure you Fleshcraft after you kill things on CD, basically. Kyrian Mechanicos brings solid damage, 3 potency conduits, a lot of damage via Shackle the Unworthy combined with your 2-piece, 4-piece, a % health-based shield every minute that can be triggered by magic and physical damage, and the offensive benefits of your Shackle Unworthy via the Capstone trait. Let's talk about Legendaries. So without 2-piece, 4-piece, Super Strain used to be a thing, but now with the Creation Catalyst, it's so easy to get 2-piece, 4-piece. Crimson Rune Weapon is now the default choice of the world. What slot do you want it in? You want it on your belt. What stats do you want on it? You want Haste Verse. What about the Unity Legendary? Boots, braces, or helmet. Now, boots or braces depends on what items you have when you go to craft the Legendary. Either choice is fine though, put it where the biggest upgrade comes. The helm comes with a stipulation. Only if the following conditions are met should you craft Unity on helm. You have 2 charges of the Catalyst, you've got both the handguards of the Hidden Realm and the leg guards of Ultimate Threat at a mythic item level from the raid, and you can convert them with your 2 Catalyst charges. You've got the carapace of the first Eidolon and the shoulder plates at mythic item level. And with this specific arrangement, you can get 4 285 item level tier pieces and free up your head slot for the Unity to get the highest possible budget you can get. Let's talk about stats. So when the cap was at 75 and 0.5 for 2-piece, haste gained a hell of a lot of value. It was in a lot of cases worth dropping some item level for haste in some situations. With the cap going down to 40, we're now back to recommending item level over everything and the stat priority of haste versus mastery and crit. Now, a huge factor in stat weights is simming yourself. I can't stress that enough. Around 35 to 40% of haste, it'll actually start to lose some value and it might swing the value of your sim. So continue to sim yourself. Don't just go down the haste circle jerk bandwagon, I can't think of any words. Da-da-da-da. With the longer dancing rune weapon uptime, mastery gains some more value. Crit's also still a fantastic DPS stat and Mythic Plus from the bonus parry from it as well. For Kyrian, it is worth mentioning that Shackle the Unworthy is hasted, but again, don't forsake the whole world in chasing haste. The important thing to remember as a Blood DK is there are no real bad secondary stats for us, and the biggest thing is your rotation. That's going to make the difference. You're not going to die because you didn't have 1% more haste. Let's talk about weapons. All right, Gavilar the First Arbiter is the mace from the Jailer, and it has a really interesting on-use effect. It'll pull a soul out, and other Gavel users will be able to see it as well. It can be attacked and killed, or it can be left and despawned after 30 seconds. And when it despawns, you get a bunch of boons or buffs. So you get Boon of the Looming Winter, Boon of Assured Victory, Boon of Harvest Hope, Boon of the End, and Boon of Divine Command. Now, if you are using this weapon, which I strongly recommend you do if you have it, without the Sigil of the first trinket, you're just going to use it on cooldown. If you do have the first Sigil trinket, what you want to do is you want to proc your soul 25 to 29 seconds before the fight starts, so it expires 1 to 2 seconds into the fight, gets the buff, and then you hit your Sigil, and that's the way you'll use the weapon to get the most out of it. The downside to this weapon is in raid encounters or keystones, you can't actually swap the weapon out after you've used the buff. So the way to bypass this, and again, this is thanks to the brains of Mandel and Panthea, is to equip an offhand, and this will force the weapon into your bags. When this occurs though, you can't re-equip the Gavel until the encounter or the keystone ends. Suitable offhands for Blood DK are the 12-pound Mudstapper and the Feralis A. Outside of Gavel, you want to try and get yourself a Rhinebinder's Runeblade or a Drustlord's Great Axe. Your best hope, 278 out of your Mythic Plus Vault if you get lucky. Enchants wise, nothing has really changed. Cloak, Solar Vitality or Fortified Leech, Chest, Eternal Skirmish for DPS or Eternal Stats for just generalized options, Gloves, Eternal Strength, Rings, Tenet of Versatility or Tenet of Haste, sim yourself, Rune Weapon, Fallen Crusader, Oil, Shadow Core Oil, Flask, Spectral Flask of Power, Potion. If you don't have 2-piece, Phantom Fire. If you do have 2-piece, 4-piece, Spectral Strength. Armor kits, Heavy Desolate Armor, Health Pot is Cosmic Healing Potion, Food, sim yourself for your highest defensive trait, and then take Versatility, Mastery, Haste, or Crit Food. Trinkets wise, bit of a disclaimer, there's going to be some more information coming out around this topic. There's some secret tech going on at the moment in regards to Codex's viability, as it has dropped some thanks to 4-piece. General purpose recommendations though, Codex of the First technique is in here. Solid trinket at higher levels of content. The Reflect can get you into all kinds of trouble though, so you need to be aware of this, and it did lose some value with 4-piece, so just be cautious around this one. File of Putrefaction, it's a solid DPS trinket and it procs off melee abilities. The Blood Spatter Scale, as always for Shadowlands, solid trinket, does a bunch of damage, great snap threat, decent sized shield. Reactive Defense Matrix at a mythic level if you can get one is a really solid trinket from an offensive and defensive purpose. Allergy of the Eternals, this makes you cry and gives you a bunch of secondary and anyone else who's wearing it in your Covenant. Solea's Secret Technique, another great way to generate more secondary stats. It's solid, not as good as it was in 9.1, but it's still solid in 9.2. And defensive trinkets if you need. Weaver the Warp Face, fantastic option. It's a cheat death trinket if you want to run Bone Storm with safety, and this was from the Sanctum of Domination as well. Mythic or Heroic is fine. And Shard of Analytes Aegis, again, a Sanctum of Domination trinket. The Absorbed is uncapped. It's not good for big hits like Reaping Scythes and things like that, but it's great for smaller hits like Arden Weald, Sanguine Depths, and things like that. So that is it, guys. Hopefully we've nailed everything you're after today. If you've got any questions at all, hit me up in the comments below. Otherwise, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for checking out the video, and I'll see you all next time. See you, fam.